Do you have a specific thing that sticks out in your mind where you feel like Steven was knowingly being dishonest for effect?
With me. That's the most obvious one. I think him pretending that I'm some like crazy anti-fan who is working with Kiwi Farms and J-Stalk and Queeman, and also pressuring people behind the scenes to not to work with him or whatever. Like, all of that is just total nonsense.
Dubes.
Hello.
Hey, how are you now?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I think I have to meet someone in a little bit, but I can push them back a little bit. Let me text them.
Wait, what time zone are you in?
I'll be on by 13:30. That's perfect. Sorry, what's that?
What time zone are you in?
Eastern.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm in Pacific.
Cool. What? You're West Coast?
Yeah, I'm in California.
Okay, cool. I love Cali. So, I'm kind of scrolling through chat because we're arguing about sexual degeneracy, but I know that we had a variety of things to talk about. I think you wanted to talk about, at least a month ago or so, you want to talk about Destiny. I know that we had a beef in reference to the Red Sea crisis in Palestine. I know that we probably had beef in reference to whether or not Jews are being pussies about Israel, Palestine. And then I think there was something else that we disagreed with. So what do you want to start? Well, actually, can you introduce yourself to the chat in case they don't know who you are, even though they should? And then can you tell us which topic you want to start with first today?
Sure. So I am Dooby. I run the politics server on Discord, discord.gg/politics. It is the, so far as I'm aware, the largest politics server on Discord that isn't attached to, like, I think Destiny's is a little bit bigger now, but mine is the biggest. It isn't attached to like a streamer or anything like that, right? It's just a, self-contained community. And I guess the reason people should probably know of me if they're like in the space, probably do know of me if they're in the space, is because I have been doing debates and whatnot on Twitch and YouTube for almost a decade now, I think. I know I've known Destiny for almost a decade, which is weird to think about. But yeah, I know just about everybody. We do like AMAs on my server with all kinds of people. Everybody from like random ass YouTubers and streamers to like to actual massive political figures. Like we had Roger Stone. We've had sitting politicians, Congress people. We've done all kinds of shit over the years. So yeah, that's who I am. But yeah, we can start with I don't even know, to be honest with you. So I think the initial idea was that there was some sense from the DGGers in chat that I did something to justify, I'll call him Steven, because you like calling him Steven. I call him to justify Steven's reaction to me, right? Which is encouraging people to dox me and whatnot, and saying that I'm part of some like cabal that's out to get him and pressuring people not to work with him or whatever the fuck, it's all total bullshit. But they seem to have some kind of evidence that this was true. I've spoken to a handful of DGGers, like just in random voice channels on Discord where I usually hang out, and nobody's ever been able to present anything to that effect. So I was hoping there was some Destiny Simpson chat. They would have some evidence that we could look at that I could respond to that would justify the behavior.
Sure. Let me, sorry, chat. I'm going to skip your stuff, but let's be real. You guys are bullying me about Bonnie Blue anyways. And then, Severin, I'm seeing your chats, although I don't know if you want me to see a specific thing. So hold on. Let me just cover the super chats real quick, and then I'm going to scroll to the bottom. That way I can see if anybody actually has any substantive criticism.
Yeah,
so
I feel like they, probably forgot why they're supposed to hate me at this point.
At this point, probably, yeah. Especially with like the Charlie Kirk assassination. As far as I know, you're relatively old news. But Asay Garcia for 20 says Mexico used to do something similar before the court would give legal authority to a family member and then send them to an annex to get sober. It worked great. Too bad we can't do this anymore legally. Literally, though, based Asay Garcia. Andrew Giaconopoulos for 5 says seriously, Adam is the biggest charisma black hole of mildly successful content creators. How does anyone take this millennial Scott Adams seriously? That's mean. Read me 45 says, tell Dooby to put on the frog sona. I miss it. Okay, based. So now we're gonna scroll down, and I'm gonna do a little bit of a catch up as well. Okay, so chat. Some of y'all got mad at me because you were accusing Destiny, or you were accusing Dooby of being a piece of shit. And I was, or am, one of the last 3 Destiny orbiters, friends, sweepers, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And Destiny has made this argument to me, which I don't find compelling. I just re-articulate it, that he's saying that he's getting doxxed, he's getting swatted, and he's been doxxed and swatted for the past year or two. And Queeman and JStock's communities are filled with A-loggers who like to go to Kiwi farms. Therefore, he is trying to dox people in that community and dox people in dox JStock, dox Queeman, because he believes that they deserve it, because they are knowingly participating in his digital harassment. However, when I asked for evidence that Dooby was doing something similar, the only thing that people brought up was Discord logs where he was in JStock and Queeman's communities talking shit about Steven. So what we're looking for is any kind of evidence, substantive evidence, that Dooby participated in A-logging or harassment any greater than some kind of tepid online criticism.
So I think you're misunderstanding. So Steven did post some like screenshot logs on Twitter, like some imager links. Those aren't from JSOC or Queeman's Discord server. So those are from, one's from Wix and the other's from Pisco's. And
yeah, so that's even less. Like yeah, that's even like less.
I had no interaction at all ever with JSOC before Destiny made these like accusations against me, right? Of like working with him to like pressure people not to have Steven on or whatever. And Queeman, the last time I spoke to Queeman before all this was like a year and a half or 2 years ago. And it was like a massive argument that he and I had that led to me kind of disconnecting from Chud's community. Because you know, there was a guy who had his like personal information linked to his Discord account, and I'm sorry, his Twitch account, and he apparently wasn't aware of this. And this guy, somebody in Chud's server found out and was basically just mocking him with his information. And the guy was not okay with it. They kept doing it anyway. Queeman was defending this. The guy was an idiot. He made it public, so it's on him. So I didn't like that, and I had a massive argument, and I pulled out of Chud's community. It was like 2 years ago.
Was that a creator?
That was Elder Drazi.
Yep, I remember that one.
Yeah,
and then
so
just summarizing that. Sorry, if I'm just repeating what you said, but Elder Drazi had social media connected to his Twitch and YouTube personality or persona that had his personal name on it, and so yeah, like people within that community were like, well, this isn't doxing because it's all public, and even if it is doxing, he's such an idiot that he deserves it. And yeah, that was, I don't know, year and a half ago.
Yeah, so that was the last interaction I had with Queeman before all this stuff. Now since then, I have I think I've exchanged like 1 or 2 Discord messages with Queeman. Actually, I was trying to get him onto a Prime panel, where I was trying to have like these GGers and the snarkers, quote unquote, like interact with each other and confront each other. But he didn't want to go on. So, and then I've spoken to JStock on the stream like twice, I think.
Yep.
But that's it, right? And again, this is post Steven encouraging people to dox me. So, so yeah, I think it's silly. But
well,
again,
and I mean, I have 160 people approximately in my chat right now, and I haven't seen anything else except for what you've stated. And so I don't see anybody saying, oh yeah, I have Dooby's alt on Kiwi farms. Oh, Dooby docs this person. Oh, Dooby docs that person. Oh, Dooby has done this harassment campaign. Nobody said anything like that yet.
Okay.
And they're not presenting evidence. So out of the 160 people who are in my chat, it doesn't seem like we're getting much of a response as far as something substantial that warrants you getting doxxed.
Yeah, and I mean, at the time, again, this is like a month old, but at the time there were people in chat saying that I was going to be doxxed, they were coming after me, whatever the fuck. So what I'm curious about, right, is like, how does this person like, so given that now, I know that I can say there's nothing to justify this reaction. And if they've never seen anything to justify the reaction, how do they square that with their loyalty to Steven? Is what I'm wondering, or thinking about Steven as an honest person that they should listen to, right? And
Well,
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about people in chat, right, who defend him constantly, say that he's honest and yada yada. If this is just a big lie, right, and he's encouraging people to dox me over a lie, like that seems pretty fucked.
well, okay, so this is gonna be just a little bit difficult for me because we're in a private call. But if I see something, okay, Beef Supreme, you said because you're a liar, Dooby. What has Dooby lied about? So that's something that should probably be substantiated. But
I think
if I was to articulate, excuse me, my sympathy to Steven, and I'm sure some people feel the same way that I do, is that Steven has been a giant in the space for a decade, right? 2016 is when he switched over to politics. And he did do things that, while self-serving, like he milked plenty of smaller creators to have crash outs. He was mean, he was abrasive, he was rude, and all that kind of stuff. The other thing that he did, though, was he gave almost everybody a shot. So anybody who wanted to call in the stream, anybody who wanted to debate, anybody who wanted to do this, anybody who wanted to do that. And we've seen repeated people make careers off of being Destiny orbiters. And we've also seen people who otherwise would have taken substantially longer in order to get far, get a boost just from a few interactions. And so that's almost like a public service in my book. And so Steven is a flawed individual who's done fucked up shit. And I think I've talked about what he's done fucked up earnestly. But I also don't feel like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, where if Steven is schizophrenic about one topic, or he freaks out about one topic, or if he's wrong about a topic, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well,
and I'm sure plenty of his chat feels the same way.
Okay, so again, I understand everything. Like what you just said is one of the reasons that I liked him for almost 10 years, right? And we had a pretty good networking relationship, right? We're never friends, but we would do a lot of networking. When I'd have people on for AMAs, I'd invite them to come on and confront them, like I did with Roger Stone, or like the fucking ambush that we did on Coach Red Pill. Like we do this kind of shit all the time. I've helped him with like random little dramas. And one of the big things I liked about him is that he would interact with smaller people and kind of lift them up, right? So I think that was great. So I'm not asking you why you haven't because I think you know that he's dishonest sometimes, right? What I'm curious about
Either
is
that or self-deluding to some degree.
No, I think he's just straight up dishonest about
lying. So you're saying he knows the truth is one thing and he's saying the opposite for effect.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since somebody accused you of lying, but they haven't really come up with an example, do you have a specific thing that sticks out in your mind where you feel like Steven was knowingly being dishonest for effect?
With me, that's the most obvious one. I think him pretending that I'm some like crazy anti-fan who is working with Kiwi Farms and J-Stalk and Queeman, and also pressuring people behind the scenes to not to work with him or whatever. Like all of that is just total nonsense, right? And I've spoken to Wick about this. I've spoken to Kyla about this. I've spoken to Pisco about this. I've spoken to you, but I don't think anybody would say that I've ever pressured anybody not to work with him. But what I've done is like criticize him. I've been curious about people's like for example, for Wick, I was curious as to actually, no, I wasn't even asking Wick like why he was having him on. It was other people in Wick's community were asking Wick why he was having Destiny on, given that Destiny had publicly doxed multiple people at that point. I was encouraging people to dox me. And Wick, there's a really funny post where it's like, oh yeah, because Wick has a no doxing rule in his community, right? And the question was, hey, why do you have this guy on if he's a doxer, and you have a no doxing rule, and no doxing is very important to you or whatever? And it got to the point where Wick said something like, oh yeah, well, I think I'm not being consistent. You're right. So maybe we need to like rethink the no doxing rule. Like there's something to that effect. It's a little bit fucking silly, right? Because Wick's entire thing was, oh, I have these strong principles that I'm sticking to, and one of those principles is this thing, but I need to adjust the principle to account for this so that I can have them on and still be principled. So I thought that was pretty dishonest. I think we should just own that he wants him on for the clout or whatever, which is fine.
Well,
I'm not bashing.
can I bring up my perception though, which might not back all of
Sure.
Steven's claims, but effectively it's something that I feel like people might be using against you, and it's something that I can think of where honesty might not have been your first priority, I suppose. And the one that was
The
kind of
devil's
shocking to
advocate thing.
me. Sorry, what's that?
The devil's advocate thing. I
Not
think
just the
that's
devil's
what
advocate
we're
thing.
referring.
I don't care about the devil's advocate thing. I figured, dude, as soon as we had that entire fascist discourse where you were like a centrist fascist, where you loved gay people, but you wanted to kill your enemies, I was like, okay, Dooby, like, even if Dooby believes this stuff, it's at least partially a character, because the politics are so extreme and so kind of esoteric that Dooby is not going to be able to accumulate enough people to believe in his esoteric beliefs that he's ever going to be able to implement them. So I kind of started looking at you more as like a fun debate sparring partner than a serious ideological advocate. And that's kind of how I treated you since that conversation.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think so I thought most people were I mean, at least the panel hosts were aware of this, right? So early days, when I think when you came around, it wasn't really the early days anymore, somewhere in the middle. But back then, what I would do is I was basically using the Twitch channels, Twitch streams, debates to advertise my server, right? That was the purpose. So one of the ways to do that is you get eyes on the screen, get people to stick there, get them angry, get them worked up. So it brings viewers to the stream for not just viewers, but viewers who are interacting with the stream to the stream for the content creator. And at the end of it, I can show my Discord server, and a lot of these people will be so angry they'll come on and want to yell at me, right? So what I would do is I would ask panel hosts, like before streams, or sometimes they'd reach out to me, and they'd ask me if I could defend this thing for him, right? Like uh and I did this like for Fnatic, for example. He had on Go Tanks and some other crazy woman, and they were talking about COVID, right? And Destiny, and they were like anti-vaccine. They thought that COVID was like fake. Like Gutex thought that like we shouldn't even ban drunk driving. As a fucking crazy person. And Destiny was obviously very pro-vaccine, very pro all the like very against what they were saying. And Fnatic needed someone to be the bridge in the middle. And even though I massively agreed with Destiny, I came on and I played the centrist and the translator for these two retards, right? Or I'm sorry, R slurs. And I would do that all the time. Like I would do this for Wick, Prime, whatever the like whatever
you're like a heel
position is. I'd come on and argue that position, right, as best as I could. And because I've been on Discord for a long time, I've spoken to God knows how many people. And something I love to do is just try to understand different ideologies, different perspectives. I was pretty good at like steel manning most positions, right? And something I would do early on in my server is just one day I was a Muslim, the next day I'm a Catholic, the next day I'm an anarchist, the next day I'm a fucking tanky communist. Like I would do this all the time. So I've got a lot of practice on it.
Oh, I have no, I understand the origin story, and I'm happy that you're explaining it to the audience. And I feel like the frog, as Jordan Peterson would point out, is a creature of chaos. It is both a land animal and a animal of the water. And it's funny. Don't you have wings sometimes too?
Yeah, well, so what happened is I used to have like a little eye ring, like an eyebrow ring, and then like bat wings.
Nice.
But I broke it at some point somehow, and I was too lazy to fix it, honestly. But I'll
Okay,
get around to it.
but I want to bring up two things, and it wasn't necessarily being the heel or steel manning random positions in order to make Twitch and YouTube politics more interesting, because that's what happened too. Was like the fascist thing was contradictory to something else that you'd said, and I'd also been on Prime and Hippy Dippy panels where the topic was a bad topic, and so everybody kind of agreed on it descriptively, and so as a result, the conversation died. And I think that on a couple of those, particularly in reference to Prime, what I saw you do was if the conversation died, you would adopt the perspective that was necessary in order to spice up the conversation again. So I kind of like, I just accepted your role. And you have to understand, like, different people accept different degrees of responsibility for their persona or who they are. I've been the straight man the entire time that I've been in Twitch and YouTube politics, effectively articulating exactly what I believe when I believe it, because that's easy for me. That's the character that I can play because that's who I am in real life as well. So I basically just been saying what I believe. But the truth is that if you just had a bunch of straight men in politics talking about policy, it would not be good content. So, you know, that's where for me, like, I accepted your role in the space a long time ago. But to point out a couple of moments that I would say like might have rubbed me a little bit weird, and therefore I accepted that people have said that you're kind of like a Varys character from Game of Thrones, like a master of whisperers. What the one that I remember that kind of rubbed me wrong that was public was the Mr. Girl situation. And the reason why was because Mr. Girl went on his crusade where he found out that Steven was still talking to Anne of War, and he was rubbed wrong by the fact that Steven had so many promiscuous relationships, was not being honest about his promiscuous relationships with his partners. And it seemed like Anna was somebody who was potentially being abused as a result of the situation. So he decided to launch the investigation. And I think that you confronted him on stream and you said, hey, like, I was pretending to help you at first because I wanted to find out what you were doing. But then realistically, I told Steven because I think you're being a fucking snake. And that to me kind of showed me that you were capable of going along to get along in order to have somebody expose themselves and then betray them later. So you had some degree of cunning and patience.
Okay. So you sort of got the story correct. So he reached out to me, and I think he had this idea that we were friends. I think he had this tendency to throw his friendship at people to make them responsible for that friendship. It's sort of a thing that manipulators do, where they make you sort of responsible for their emotions.
I remember that in reference to Chud.
You. Yeah, they just make you responsible for their emotions by throwing them at you and laying them on you constantly.
Yeah, if you don't do what I want you to do, then you're ruining our friendship.
Yeah. So he would say all the time that we're friends. He wanted to play video games together. We'd hung out a couple times in Discord. Like, I have this small server called like Motel Dooby. It's just like a bunch of random streamers and friends and mods for my server. And I used to hang out in there all the time when I was working. And we talked in there a few times, but very little. So I didn't consider us friends at all. But to be clear, I do know a lot of people in this space, and I think he knew that. And he reached out to me one day just randomly and asked me for contact with Denims and Bad Bunny, who I'd had on for AMAs before. And I was going to get him in touch with them, right, through my mods who were closer to them than I was, because I hadn't spoken. I think I'd spoken to Denim once, but I'd spoken to Bad Bunny a handful of times, but I hadn't spoken to them in a while, right? So I had mods who were closer to them that I was. So I was going to do it, but then he started like saying things that kind of implied that he wanted to get in touch with these people to mine them for information on Steven. And because at the time I used to listen to Destiny stream all the time while I was working, like it was kind of my background noise. If I wasn't listening to an audiobook or sitting in Discord, listening to people talk, I heard him say to Steven directly, like, I would never betray you. You can trust me inherently. We can move in together. We're going to be lifelong friends, like all this kind of stuff, right? Just begging Steven to trust him, right? And trust him without question. So him coming to me and laying out that he was backstabbing this guy, that he'd publicly begged to trust him so many times, that I really dislike that. That's disgusting to me.
So Steel Manning Max, though, do you think that he could have, because this is my perception of it, I think that Max might have seen things in Steven that Steven wasn't. And what I mean by that is that Max, in my opinion, wanted to always take the edgiest, craziest, most insightful position. That way, not only could he be attacked as a villain, but also he would provoke some level of like introspection and insight. And I think he did that in particular through hip hop music. I think he did that in particular with the pedophile discourse. I think he did that in particular with the cuties discourse. And so I feel like, Mr. Girl, in my opinion, is always looking for that insightful, controversial angle on which to get negative attention but force people to think. And I think that he saw the way that Stephen conducted himself in reference to debates and believed that he was a comrade in arms fighting for some like higher, more insightful truth. And that since they had been, Stephen had been censored by Twitch by getting banned, and Mr. Girl had been censored by YouTube by getting banned or demonetized or whatever the fuck, that they were comrades in arms fighting the lazy sheep-like masses who didn't think about serious topics deeply. And that's what I kind of remember about his initial pledge to Stephen for loyalty, is he felt like he had like an artistic comrade in arms. Artistic, not autistic. However, what I think that if you're looking at it from a Machiavellian lens, at least, kind of the way that I do, I think that Max ended up resenting his role as a lightning rod on Stephen's stream, where he didn't feel like he was like a peer artist or a peer friend who were working together to fight like the lack of insight in the masses. He felt like he was being used as like a lightning rod and a weapon by Stephen to deflect from his own, to deflect from Stephen's controversy. And so in that way, right or wrong, you can see like Mac's duplicitous nature in reference to what you were saying as betrayal. But I think that in Max's mind, he was betrayed first.
Yeah, I think he took the Reddit ban as betrayal, right? And Stephen's which I think is silly. I think
it is silly.
I think
it's very silly. You should not wrap up your personal worth as an artist in whether or not you're able to participate in another person's Reddit. That is a crazy thing to fucking crash out about.
Yeah, it was that and the Nick Fuentes streams.
I agree.
Those two things I think are what led him to see Stephen as an enemy and want to backstab him. And because I'd seen all those earlier, I mean, and I can understand that, right? I'm not saying you need to be somebody's friend forever if you find new information about them. But I think
you should front stab
somebody. Exactly. If you've begged somebody to like to trust you and to be close to you and yada yada, you should have the backbone and the I think the fucking I think it's immoral to do what he was doing, right? So I didn't want to participate. I tried to give him a few outs early in the conversation to just leave it alone and not come to me with it. But when he kept pushing and kept like dropping little things, as if he was trying to get me to ask him for more information, because I'm pretty good at reading people, and I could tell that he was trying to get me to ask him for the information so that he'd be able to like dump it on me, right? And then I'd be able to help him. So at that point, I messaged Stephen right away, like as I was talking to him the first time, to let him know like, hey, this guy's doing this. And then from then on, I was just seeing whatever information I could get about what he was up to.
So I'm understanding your characterization, and I don't think it necessarily like I don't think it doesn't align with anything that I've thought. However, have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? And what I mean by that is, have you ever participated in gay ops? And what I mean by that is like, I don't have time for this shit. I'm almost 40, and I know that you have a kid and a wife now, so things might be different. But gay ops, in my opinion, is where like people try to do information warfare with such small stakes that they're putting out disinformation to the opposing side when the disinformation that they're putting out to other communities is like it's 250 viewer streamers in some cringe beef. You know what I'm saying? So I guess my question is, have you participated in gay ops as your, I don't know, as the king of the Discord political dumbasses?
Absolutely. But I'm not with streamers. So if you look up Centipede Central right now, just like Google Centipede Central, there's a Vice article that talks about Centipede Central, there being like a coup and the server was destroyed, right? And it was, at the time, it was the largest, I think it was the largest political Discord server. It was a very pro-Trump server. And it was destroyed from the inside by the admin team. I did that, right? I wasn't on the server at all. But I knew the people on the server. I knew people on the admin team. and I convinced them to turn on each other and destroy the server. Now, early on, when I was building my Discord server, I did a lot of things like that. There was a fucking interview that I did where the guy was calling like the Genghis Khan of Discord, right? Because what I was doing early on was I would go to smaller Discord servers or even larger Discord servers, and I would try to convince the owners to merge with me, and so I can pull their community into my community and grow the bubble. Or if I couldn't do that, I would see them as a competitor. I would look for ways to take them down. And I don't mean reporting them to Discord. I mean I would turn the admin team against each other. Now, the truth is, I realized this when I was very young. I do have the ability to be extremely manipulative, extremely cunning, if you want to call it that. I'm very good at reading people. And I think a lot of people on Discord are people with not much of a social life, no practice in any sort of these interactions. So a lot of them are very easy to, sway if you want to. I did do that early on starting my Discord server, so I'm not going to be dishonest about that. And I can give you tons of examples of that.
Well, okay, so hold on, but right there, even though you're saying that you are guiltless in reference to trying to do gay ops against Destiny, can you see how somebody who knows your prior reputation as a Discord Genghis Khan and sees you moving through various communities in a hostile way to that creator, how they would be suspicious that you were effectively like the Varys, you're turning your army. And by the way, I've just been watching a lot of Game of Thrones clips recently, so I'm sorry to everybody who hasn't watched Game of Thrones recently.
You're not the first to make the Varys reference.
Well, but if you're making the Varys reference, then like, why wouldn't that person be concerned that Varys and his little birds seem to no longer favor them for king of Twitch and YouTube politics? Now, I think this is kind of lame, because I think you should just create your content and not really give a shit about the gay ops of other people. But at the same time, if somebody has built their career on Reddit, built their career on Discord, built their career on relationships, and now everything is imploding, then why wouldn't you see Varys, kind of turning against your cause and be like, oh shit, this motherfucker's trying to destroy me?
Yeah, I totally get that, right? But this is why I wanted to be clear earlier. I did that with Discord servers. I've never done that with a Twitch streamer person, because from my perspective, you, other streamers, are people. This is your livelihood. I have no interest in destroying your livelihood, right? Like that's disgusting. I mean, I'm a business owner. I started my business when I was 22 years old. I grew up extremely poor. Right? I used to work 3 jobs and sell my blood for gas money. Like I know what it's like to grind, right? So I have no interest in undermining, destabilizing, destroying somebody's business like this. I wouldn't do that. And I don't think you'll ever find an example of me doing this to anybody within the streaming or like space at all, ever. But if we're talking about like Discord servers, I also haven't done it in a long time with Discord servers, but I can understand you having that impression. Like there was a time when people were afraid to talk to me one-on-one because they were afraid I'd do like mind magic on them, right? Like, so I totally understand the impression, right? But again, you'll never find an example of me doing this with like streamers, other than that one thing with Mr. Girl, if you want to call it that, which I don't really consider that.
No, but but putting it together, and by the way, like I'm not saying that this is true, okay? I'm presuming, I'm hoping, because I've only seen you as a frog. The only time I've seen your face was when it was a random black guy talking to Nick Fuentes.
Hey, that was really funny.
What was that, you or was that somebody else?
No, that was some black child from YouTube.
Okay. But see, that's the kind of thing where it was funny, right? It's funny, and I've engaged. Like I liked our debates. I like the way that you test the grounds. I like the way that you test the water. But you understand, from my perspective, I only know you as a frog PFP. I only know you as a frog PFP who has tricked Nick Fuentes into thinking that you're black, who has done gay ops in order to take over Discords, who has played a steelman of every political philosophy. And then also, you're unironically a frog, which is a creature of chaos, and you have wings, which is literally the description of Jungian chaos, right? And so I know that it's like, it's cartoony, it's jokey, it's funny, it's very low stakes, it's Discord, right? But at the same time, you know, you could be blameless and guiltless, but I understand how a paranoid person who is being attacked on all fronts, who has lost all of their online friends, how they would see you like moving through several communities and then be like, oh, Dooby's positioning himself to fuck me over, even though we've known each other for a decade. Fuck Dooby.
Yeah, again, I can understand. And actually, I'm very happy you caught on to the Chaos Frog thing. That's really funny. I didn't think anybody caught on to that. But it started as like a Pepe reference. You know, I'm the king of the Pepes on my Discord server is kind of the joke. So the reason that what you just said doesn't land with me is I've known him for almost 10 years, right? And he knows that I know everybody in the space. I know Pisco, I know Wick, I know Erudite, I know fucking everybody, right? And I've been in all these communities for years, right? Like I knew Chud when he was like a 10 viewer Andy, if you want.
I know, isn't it? So I always compliment Chud whenever I bring shit up, and I don't know if he ever sees like if anybody ever clips it or tags him in it, but I'm actually proud. I'm proud to have known Chud back when he was wearing a fucking wrestling mask. You know, like I'm proud that I've known him for that long, and now he's a successful drama streamer.
Yeah, well, before the wrestling mask, it was some like green like picture of some dude with white hair. I forgot who the dude was. But yeah, I've known you since you came on the scene. I've known Pisco since he came into the scene. Actually, very early on, I did consider sort of monopolizing this side of Twitch. I'm a pretty wealthy person, right? I'm not the average chat shitter, right? And I do have a competitive streak. This is true, right? And very early on, when I saw the Twitch politics space kind of forming, I did consider monopolizing it in meaning that I wanted to pull all these small streamers onto my Discord server, have them stream for my server, use my audience for not just like views, but also like reactions, pull people from my community onto their stream to have debates and whatnot, because I felt like that would be an easy way to feed them content. And in return, I would pay, I think it was like $500-600 a week for each of them to advertise their shit, right? Like
for small people, they would fucking love that. Yeah.
And I strongly considered doing this. So I think we started it a little bit, but I realized pretty quickly that because you guys were essentially competing businesses, it just wasn't going to work out because, you know, there's too much incentive to fuck each other over or not work together or fight for time slots or whatever the fuck. And I just had no interest in managing all that. But that was very early on, right? But getting back to the Destiny thing, because he knows me and because he knows that I know everybody, I think him pushing this idea that I'm in these spaces to fuck him over is ridiculous. I think he has to know that's bullshit because again, he knows that I know Pisco. I've known Pisco probably longer than he's known Pisco, right? And I was in Pisco's community for a long time. Pisco sort of like replaced him as my like listening. You and Pisco actually replaced Destiny as my like daily listening streams while I'm working, right? So I was in Pisco's stream for months, just listening, super chats, chatting, fucking with people in chat. Usually arguing Israel Palestine in his Discord server because he's got a server full of like rabid Zionists. So him pushing this idea that I'm only there to like turn Pisco against him is fucking ridiculous, right? Like,
that's the least something that Queeman said to his credit. Even the last time that Queeman and I talked in DMs, we fought. Destiny was like, oh yeah, all these people are conspiring to fuck me over and blah 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 blah. And Queeman said, to his credit, I think, and I think Steven needs to consider this. Well, you did something to piss all these people off, right? And it really is like the Pixie situation. Like he was complaining to me, he's like, oh, nobody's working with me. You know, nobody talks to me, nobody debates me, nobody DMs me, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I think for me, you know, because my chat hated me earlier today because I was shitting on all their degenerate pornographic sex behavior. I think that one of the cornerstones of liberal and progressive perspective on sex is consent and not really much else. And Steven went on the red pill arc, which was arguing for like a more liberal progressive sexual position. and then he was viewed as violating consent. And so as a result, it wasn't just viewed as, oh, Steven did this like cute gooner fuck up thing. Isn't he so fucking cute? It was like, no, you said something in public that should have prohibited you from behaving this way privately. Because you behave this way privately, I can no longer trust you. And not only can I not trust you, I probably dislike you. And I think that's why the people are hostile to Steven, is because of that, more than out of some Game of Thrones Machiavellian desire to dethrone the king.
Yeah, it really is just that. I mean, like I said, when I cut ties with him entirely when the leak stuff happened, and it wasn't really
did you cut ties in November or in January?
I think it was November. So there was
November 29th was the original leaks reveal, and then January 20th was when President Sunday kind of revealed it to the world.
No, it was before that. It was when Melina started saying on stream that her stuff was shared without consent, and people were kind of ignoring this. I was really irritated that people were ignoring this because I wanted it to be answered for, right? I wanted to, like, is this true? I want somebody to bring it up. So there was a stream that he was on with Wick.
Hold on, did you pay Wick to ask that?
Yeah, I did. I use.
I was about to say, because that would enforce the conspiracy.
Yeah, hold on.
I'm sorry.
I paid Wick to. There was like $20 to ask a question, right, or like to bring it up.
That's funny.
So that was because it really irritated me that people were like, Wick was ignoring this. Everybody's ignoring this. It was silly. But the thing that really got me to cut ties it wasn't even really the nude leaking thing, though that is bad. It was his response to it, which I thought he was taking like no accountability. No, he was behaving like a selfish piece of shit. But further, the leak stuff exposed what I consider to be like malicious dishonesty regarding the Lauren Southern thing. It's his fucking relationship. I don't give a fuck who he's fucking. But I remember when he broke up with Melina, there were like hours long streams, right, where he was framing her as some delusional, jealous, crazy person. Since he was jealous over Lauren Southern, over some other woman that she was like that she thought he had some relationship with, and again framing her as some delusional nutbag, but that was true, right? So he was, my opinion, maliciously slandering her to her community, to make her to weaponize the community against her, so that the narrative that was spread is that she's crazy and jealous and yada yada. Yep. Like that looks like, to me, that's gross, right? So that plus the way that he responded to the nude leak stuff just made me feel like, okay, I just want. Oh, and also this caused me to look into other shit, like the claim that Hassan went to like a brothel and like fucked some like sex trafficked children, whatever the fuck. Like, it got me to looking into all that stuff and a bunch of other shit in the past where I'd kind of given him a pass or just not looked into it because I trusted the guy. I thought he wouldn't lie about this shit like that. And I just found that just a long pattern of what I consider to be malicious dishonesty. So I just wanted nothing to do with him. So I cut ties, just want nothing, no networking, don't want to be in any of his content, don't want to be on the stream, don't want to talk to him. Just, same thing that sort of happened with Chud, where I just kind of pull away and that's it. Right. And if he comes up, I criticize him. Did
you pull away from Chud?
Yeah. I used to be in Chud's community all the time. Chud was, because Chud streams early, for a while he was my like early morning stream while I was working. Right.
Dude, anything related to Twitch and YouTube politics from Chud I still watch because it's fun. It's fun having an English guy watch a stupid thing in Twitch and YouTube politics or Twitch and YouTube politics adjacent, and then just pause every 5 minutes and explain why the person involved is a fucking idiot. That's good content to me. It's like very high calorie, low commitment content.
He's like Jerry Springer, Yeah. He's like he's a great entertainer. My issue with Chud was just that I felt like was running cover and excusing the Eldrazi stuff.
Yeah.
And for me that crosses the line because not because of so much the sharing of the personal information, but I felt like they were, I don't want to be an ass with Eldrazi, but I felt like they were bullying a guy who was like at the bottom of the totem pole. Yeah. And for me, that's not okay. Right?
No, there's some things that I've seen from Chud and Queeman where like, if you're bullying somebody who's not a part of the community, who's unlikely to see the content, I don't really care about that. But there's some people who are clearly like super sensitive to the point that they'll be looking for lolcow content about themselves. And so they'll basically be like psychically hurting themselves, and Chud and Queeman will keep going because they think it's funny to bully somebody who's a fucking lol cow. But for me, if you're bullying like I don't know, a lol cow with 1 million subs, who has a shitload of viewers, who has a shitload of financial support, who has a wife or a girlfriend, I don't give a fuck. That guy has a decent life outside of stream. Whereas if you're bullying a lol cow who's likely to see it and they don't have anything going for them, then you're just bullying somebody who's already on the verge of suicide. Like, it's like, holy shit.
And to be clear, like while that was happening, Queeman was deleting stuff. After a while, he started deleting things and telling people to stop it. But DK was doing it. Child was still excusing it. So for me, there's like a line cross there where you're like, just and Elder Drazi was on stream and they were justifying it to him, right? So it wasn't even like he's just he wasn't even there, but he was on the stream and they're justifying posting his shit to him and mocking his wife and yada yada, right? So like there's a line there that I'm just not okay with it, so I pulled away from the community, right? And that doesn't mean I'm trying to take Chud down or I hate Chud. It's just I didn't like how he handled the situation, and for me, I have no attachment, so I just pull away, go somewhere else. Not a big deal. Which is exactly what happened with Steven, right? Now I talk about Steven sometimes because he's relevant to the space. He's a very big figure in the space, and whenever there's some new development in his court case, whenever he says something stupid that causes controversy, people talk about it. So I talk about it, and I criticize him because he deserves a lot of criticism for the dumb shit he's been doing.
Yeah,
and that's
right? That's where for me. So I understand your position within the community. I understand why Stephen would be paranoid about you moving through various communities. I understand that your criticism might hit a little bit harder compared to like the average chat shitter. But I can't identify a specific behavior that you've committed that the average Destiny anti-fan chatter shitter hasn't done. Criticizing the way that he's conducted his personal life, plenty of people do that. Criticizing the way that he's engaging with politics optically or rhetorically, I don't even know if I've heard you do that. But I wouldn't view that as beyond the pale. And so that's where for me, if I was to be, because like doxing, you're exposing somebody's name, you're exposing their address, you're exposing their phone number. By implication, you want some people to call and harass that person either at their home or at their business. You want people to DM that person and show them that their address is on the internet, that way they feel unsafe in their own home. You want that person, like their real name to be emailed or direct message to them. That way they know like their identity has been exposed to make them feel uncomfortable. Yeah. I feel like even if the act of doxing itself is not illegal, the harassment that is implied by actively participating in doxing is unethical and immoral. And so the only way that you should really engage in that kind of behavior would be within the context of what he said, like, well, I've been getting harassed for 2 years and these people are responsible, therefore I'm going to do it to them so they feel what I feel. I could understand that morally, but I don't think that there's sufficient evidence to show that J-Stock specifically, Queeman specifically, and you specifically have engaged in that behavior. You could say that J-Stock and Queeman have fostered the kind of communities that wouldn't give two fucks about Steven getting doxxed and would probably even laugh at him being harassed, and there might be some cross-pollination between them and Kiwi Farms, but I don't think that's sufficient evidence to justify Queeman and J-Stock's doxing, let alone yours.
Yeah, and good, like since I was accused of working with these people, cause before I didn't watch J-Stock stream at all. I saw him once in a while. I think typically when Destiny was on there, I'd watch whatever video went out to see whatever drama or argument they were having. Queeman, I was aware of him streaming, but I didn't watch it. I think I watched it once when he was talking about some Israel debate. I forget who it was. I feel like it was Mehdi Hassan. But other than that, I had no interaction with these communities. So yeah, like saying that I'm like in league with them or whatever. And this is what really irritated me isn't so much the dox threat, right? Because people have been trying to dox me for fucking a decade, right? And much scarier people than DGG idiots who probably can't lift 20 pounds, right?
Right.
I've had run-ins with very serious groups. Like
you fought like fucking actual
like,
Nazis and dissident right-wing groups. I remember some of that shit.
I've gotten a shit ton of people arrested over the years. So like these people are still after me. So the only reason the doxing thing irritated me would be that I have a wife and son now, right? So if I were doxed, it might put them in some kind of danger. That's not okay to me. But really, the core of it was the dishonesty, because I think bare minimum, he has no evidence, no reason to believe that I'm doing all the shit he said beyond his paranoia, right? And
Yeah.
if he just asked Wick, Kyla, you, Pisco, none of these people would ever say that I pressured them to do anything, right? Like ever. And I'm very confident that none of them would say this.
The pressure thing, though, I think that it's subconscious, and I'm not saying that you've done anything inappropriate in my chat or that you've sent me like inappropriate DMs or something, but I think that what people know, and this doesn't just apply to you, this applies to all my chatters. If I have 150, 180 people hanging out in my chat, then typically I know that I'm doing something right as far as like entertainment. But if I take a 30 to 50 viewer hit, and then 20 of my viewers are calling me the biggest piece of shit in the world, now maybe I believe what I believe, so I'm going to stick to my guns, right? But when you lose audience, and when a large section of your audience becomes critical of you, there's a temptation to bend to their will, because like you want to keep the audience, you want to keep the money flowing, you want to keep people happy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so while I haven't succumbed to the pressure of Destiny anti-fans or whatever, I can see how a smaller creator or a less thoughtful creator could. And so that's where I kind of sympathize with Steven, where the reason why these people are pressuring me, they jump into my chat, they call Steven a piece of shit, they say, hey, he has this illegal material, do you disavow? The reason why they're doing that isn't because they actually care about my individual morality, nor do they really care about the outcome in reference to Steven, in reference to the legal case. Otherwise, they would just let the legal case play its course. What they're trying to do is they're trying to socially isolate him. They're trying to make sure that he doesn't have any friends, he doesn't have any allies, nobody will participate with him, nobody, because they think he's that bad of a guy.
Right.
And so they can feel justly about that, but I also think that Steven can think that liberals and progressives are a bunch of pussies who, the second there was any pressure to disavow him, nearly everybody in online politics threw him to the fucking wolves, despite having 3-year, 5-year, 10-year relationships with the man. The second that he fucked up publicly and the second there was any public pressure, they were like, yeah, fuck him, I disavow, and I hope he burns in hell.
Yeah, so I totally get that pressure. Well, what I'm saying is that I don't think there's any evidence, any reason to believe that I'm one of the people doing that, right? So I talk about it when it comes out,
I don't think you've done any undue pressure.
but
Your undue pressure, your pressure is, hey, this is my opinion.
yeah, exactly. So like you're talking about it, you're talking about the guy. I give my opinion. That's it. Like, but I think there's pressure the other way too, and I saw this with Pisco, like firsthand, because like I said, I was hanging out on Pisco's stream and server for months, right? Months before he had that that blow up, that argument with you and Steven about the communism thing, where I thought you guys were fucking ridiculous. Right? I thought you and Steven your arguments were terrible. To be honest with you, I felt like
I think Pisco's come my way since.
No, I don't think so. I mean, at least I hope not. I really hope not. But at the time, I thought your arguments were bad. Okay, I thought Steven's arguments were bad. I thought Steven was. I thought Pisco was correct, right? I think he said it was like that there was no real argument here. That it was actually just spite driven, or over like feelings of like disloyalty or abandonment or whatever. So I agree with Pisco about that when he said that at the time. But so I was there for months, arguing with people in the server and in the chat all the time about random shit. And when you guys had that argument, there were people in Pisco server who are like hardcore DGers who wanted the bridge rebuilt, right? And when Pisco was arguing with Destiny, and I took Pisco's side, they started, and Destiny pushed this narrative that Pisco only dislikes him because of me, right? Which is fucking crazy.
Yeah, Pisco is not that weak-willed. Like,
yeah,
like Pisco is open to criticism and open to suggestion, but try telling Pisco to do anything that he doesn't want to do. That's like one of the most stubborn, intransigent, donkey-headed motherfuckers I've ever met in my life.
Okay,
where you cannot force Pisco to say or do anything that Pisco himself does not want to do.
I really like Pisco.
No,
I
he's
consider
great.
him to be one of the
He's just an
like
asshole.
I think there are like a handful of people in the space that I consider to be like genuinely decent, good people, and he's one of them, right? Like genuinely. So
He legalistically argues sometimes. He likes to call it linearizing arguments. But sometimes I feel like he does. You believe in A, and I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you believe in B, and I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you believe in C, and I'm like, yeah. And then he's like, well, therefore you must believe in X, and I'm like, hold up. so
yeah, I get that.
so
But
he's
that's it.
rhetorically effective. I just don't find that
Yeah.
tactic to be particularly honest, but that's fine.
I don't think it's dishonest so much. I think that's just the way that he thinks. He's very linear, right?
Sure.
And he's just it's actually there's extra steps.
I just think that any intelligent person, including him, because by the way, I don't think he's unintelligent or obtuse. I think he would concede that he got me to concede on ABC, but in order to necessarily believe X, I must also sign on to D, E, and F. And then we fight on D, E, and F.
Yeah, I get that. But yeah, so the idea that I convinced him to do that, to dislike Destiny, is ridiculous, right? So the only reason I was talking to about Destiny on Pisco's stream, I'm not even streaming in this chat, was because Pisco brought up this shit that Destiny was saying about him, that he was pandering to like Hassan and the far left or whatever the fuck. And Pisco was very upset about that, right? So Pisco was talking about it. I was reacting to Pisco talking about it. And that was it, right? Like that, it wasn't any deeper than that.
Sure.
So there are people within Pisco's community who are because this happens a lot with smaller creators when they're attached to a larger creator. A lot of the early joiners are people from that larger community, and if there's any like conflict between the two, these early joiners will pressure the smaller streamer to rebuild the bridge, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was what was happening with Pisco. I think it's still happening with Pisco, and so when Destiny put out this narrative that I'm like working with all these people to undermine him or whatever, people within his community latched onto that and started pushing this idea that I was flooding his community with minions because people came on from the stream where, hundreds of people watching the stream, people are going to join the Discord server. So people are coming on and agreeing with Pisco, and they thought that because they were agreeing with Pisco, they must be minions of mine. Right? Like that's how ridiculous it was, right? And eventually one of them paid like...
Yeah, that's where I think Steven as an example, and I'll just say this honestly because I think I told him to his face last time I was in Miami. Queeman and J-Stock, in my opinion, have engaged in A-log behavior. And what I mean by that is that if Steven fucks something up or does something criticizable, they will blast that out to their audience. Now, their audiences are comparably small, but they use that as fodder for content, kind of like we all do, right? When you hate somebody consistently and they do something stupid, you make it content. But I think J-Stock in particular has built his bones off of being a Destiny A-log. Now, that being said, there's nothing wrong with that. Some of us have engaged in that kind of content. And not only that, but then Steven brings up, well, within the information warfare game that he's playing, because he's tied up by legal shit and not really having an orbit anymore, he feels like he must try to probably rebuild the bridge with Pisco, use food shops as a weapon, use me as a weapon insofar as I'm willing to be able to, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm thinking to myself, like, no, you don't. You don't have to do any of this shit. You could just stream and talk about politics and create content. You don't need to engage in information warfare. And if Hassan and his large audience says, oh, Steven's like a dishonest pedophilic rapist, you can just go, no, I'm not. And then you can keep going on with your content. Like you do not have to participate in the information warfare because ultimately, like, yeah, well, you lose out on some opportunities. Sure. But realistically, the easier thing rather than engaging in information warfare would be to just engage in slightly better personal behavior. And so like, I don't think I'm asking for the moon from Steven. And I don't even think Steven is fighting me on what I'm asking him to do on a personal level. But like, what if you attacked me for who I am, that doesn't hurt me.
Yeah. No, I think the A-logging thing is weird. I'd never heard that term before I was accused of A-logging, right, or being associated with A-loggers. But I mean,
yeah, it's just documenting somebody's constant bad behavior.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I feel like, when I watched Destiny, he would talk about Hassan anytime Hassan did something stupid, right? He would blow it up on the stream, talk about it. I mean, I think that's like normal behavior in the streaming space.
I
Everybody
think
kind of does
with A-logging, to differentiate it from criticizing your political rivals and opponents, A-logging is like a sole focus. Like if Steven just had Hassan bad, Hassan bad, Hassan bad, Hassan bad, Hassan bad content, and that was all of his content, then I would think he would be guilty of A-logging.
Okay.
If, however, it's like 1 out of every 50 videos is a Hassan bad video, then I wouldn't call him an A-logger.
Okay.
And that's why Queeman, I think, is not technically an A-logger, because he actually has diverse content.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense to me. And like I said, I don't from my interaction with JSOC, he seems like a nice guy. I don't know him very well. Queeman, we have had that massive argument, but beyond that, I don't know him very well at all. So I can't really speak to their behavior or any of that. But yeah, I think so yeah, I was going to say that within Pisco's community, there was pressure. I think I saw people within his community pressuring him to rebuild the bridge, making him feel like he had less support than he did within his own community, banning people for agreeing with him on that fucking stream, which is fucking ridiculous. Eventually, one of them paid like $500 to ban me and make it sick. Like one of the admins banned me, and then he paid like $500 to make it sick. And so like, I think that comes from the other pressure, right? Which is the pressure to maintain the bridge, maintain the connection with the community. I think if you, for example, I think you've done a really good job of separating yourself, so to shield shield yourself from that kind of pressure with your military content, with the conservatism thing, with your Warhammer content. I think you've built your own community, right? Like I think you've done a very good job. But I think there are absolutely people within your community. I'm seeing some of them in the chat right now, where if you did burn the bridge with Destiny, they would pressure you hard to rebuild it. Sure. And I think it's normal. I think it's normal for people to want two content creators who they like to interact with each other. I'm not even saying that's a bad thing, but I think that pressure exists both ways. Now, in terms of the pressure that he claims that I was doing, right? I don't think it's just not real.
Yeah, it's not substantiated any worse than anybody else's action in the space. So just because, and I'll just say this descriptively, just because you run the politics server, just because you know everybody and have done AMAs with them or interacted with their content or whatever, I wouldn't say that like your criticism could be felt harder because of the length of your relationship and your position with within Twitch and YouTube politics. But I don't think that should change his behavior. Some dickhead on a fucking and that's the thing. Like whenever I get caught up in drama, I really try to zoom out and articulate what's going on because I think it sets things into scale. So as an example, with the Steven Pixie thing, it's Steven recorded homemade pornographic content. He shared it with somebody he shouldn't have. It got leaked and he's being sued. That's what's going on.
I mean, well, I think he also recorded it without consent. I think
the audio recordings allegedly from Sherry, which has not proceeded criminally or civilly as far as I know.
Yeah. So, but I believe that's true. So, because I saw, do you know who Baby Peaches is?
No, but I think I've seen them on a stream recently.
Yeah, she was on a stream recently. I think
she was on a stream with us recently. I might have been.
Yeah, she was on a stream with us recently, right? Yeah, she was on that stream with us recently.
Okay. Yeah. So Baby Peaches. Yeah.
I was on. So I didn't know who this person was at all, right? And I was on a stream with her where I argued with her about this Zip guy going to Steven's hearing, and I thought that was weird parasocial behavior. That's kind of weird to me. That's it. That was my criticism. I think it's kind of weird. That's it. So she disagreed with me. Later, I went into this was post the allegations from Destiny. I went into JSOC server and people were saying, "Oh, you're on stream with Peaches and she did this and this and this," and they showed me some screenshots of her. Looks like from early 2024, saying that she knows that she received videos that were recorded without consent. She received them from Destiny. Now, to me, that was shocking because I had no idea she had any connection to any of this stuff at all. So I went back into Wix server and I was asking about hey, did you know this? and I tagged her and I said, "Hey, is this real?" I didn't get rather than respond to that, she insulted me. So I kept asking her, "Hey, is this real? Did you actually know of this?" And yeah, we had a massive argument then. She didn't answer then. I spoke to her again recently, actually after the stream that you and I were on with her. and I asked her directly, right? Like, hey, is this real? Right? Because I'm not like a rabid hater, right? So on that stream that we're on, I didn't bring it up at all publicly, but privately asked her about it. Like after the stream was done, and we're sitting there with Prime and a couple other people. And she said that she didn't remember sending them those messages, and the other person had deleted their messages in the screenshots, right? So it's just her messages, but it's obvious she's having a conversation. And she said she just didn't remember sending them. So
Right, which sounds like cope in one direction or the other.
Yeah, so I that makes it very hard for me to believe that she didn't send them. So so long story short, I believe that he did record people without consent, right? Like I 100% believe that. But again, I don't go around talking about that unless it comes up, right? And he comes up a lot because he's relevant to the space. So that's as deep as it goes.
What I think I'm praying, unironically, what I think Dan and Erudite and probably Mooten and anybody who has ever considered themselves a friend of Steven is that November 29th of 2024 should have been a fucking wake-up call. No, regardless of Steven's sins, that should have been a fucking wake-up call. Like, you engage in behavior that was so disastrous that 95% of your orbit left you. Your name is toxic in political communities. Most mainstream political organizations that aren't under the age of 40 will probably not work with you. Political organizations under the age of 40 have to be ready to disavow you at the drop of a hat if you engage in more egregious behavior. And so as a result, your career opportunities, not even talking about it from a selfish level, I'm not even talking about hurting other people. I'm not even talking about having bad relationships. I'm talking about it from a selfish level. He's hurt himself. And so if you don't wake up to the point where you touch a stove and you burn yourself, you're kind of a fucking idiot. And so, I think I've stuck by this so far, which is effectively like, I want Steven to wake up. I want him to smell the coffee. I want him to realize what's going on, and I want him to moderate his behavior accordingly. Also, one of the things that I'll just say right now is it's kind of like the Anton Chigurh quote, where it's like, if what you believed led you to this, then of what good was your belief, right? And so if nihilism and immature hedonism and the wanton pursuit of pleasure led you to this result, of what good was your belief system? Now, I could be, from a biblical perspective, I could be throwing seeds on, infertile soil. And I'm not a Christian literalist, to be clear. But I'm gonna throw those seeds, because I think if Steven changes behavior, it would be a net good.
I agree with you. I think you are throwing seeds onto salted ground, but you're a grown ass man, right? I'm not gonna. It's not my business to tell you who you can be friends with, right? I'm not. That's silly. So whatever, right? So like I've had toxic friends that I tried to help, and I stuck around way too long. I think this is everybody's had this experience at some point, right? So I think you are in this place where you're staying along too long, and it might be enabling a bit. But again, you're a grown ass man. I don't really care. Right?
And by the way, he's a grown ass man. So if I give him advice and he ignores my advice and he ends up civilly sued or incarcerated or destroys his career, yeah, that's going to reflect badly on me because I stayed, past the point that, reasonable people would have said, hey, I'm severing the bridge. But at the same time, he's a grown ass man. I can lead a horse to water. I can't compel them to drink. So if Steven, modifies his behavior slightly, if he's less of a hedonist, if he considers other moral philosophies besides the ones that have led him to this result, then awesome. And then if he says, nope, I'm going to live my life exactly how I feel like it. Fuck all of you. You can't tell me what to do. I'm going to do X, Y, Z, ABC. And then it blows up in his face. Then the best I'm going to be able to do is say, hey, man, I told you.
Yeah, and I get that. Like, so for me, I just treat him as like some idiot content creator that I dislike, and I talk about him when it comes up. Like I have no interest in undermining him, destroying his platform, anything like this. Like I just don't give a fuck, right? I'm in the space. He's relevant to the space, so I talk about him when he comes up, and I think he's stupid, so I criticize him. That's it. That's as deep as it goes.
Sure.
Now, I I
We
think
we
that
we might have to
if I were to
divide
like
this
give it,
up. We might have to
sure,
divide this up because I was actually supposed to be someplace else at 1:30, but I stayed because we were still getting into the meat and bones of the topic.
yeah.
So basically, if you still wanted to talk about Hassan or the Red Sea Crisis or those other topics, I would probably need to save those for a different day. But if you had any save rounds specifically to Steven, then I would probably still want to hear those before we kind of wrapped up.
I mean, my if I had advice or I had an outcome that I wanted regarding Steven, right? It would just be I think he should probably I think he's lost in the sauce right now. I think he should probably take a month off, get some perspective, deal with the shit, and then come back when things have calmed down a bit, and then try to behave like a rational person. Because I think right now he's been spiraling for a while, and I think it's gonna get worse if he doesn't do that. That's it. But
Well,
beyond that,
and
I really don't.
maybe the
I don't care much.
demonetization is actually going to be helpful in that regard, because he's already talked about how he's going to do less political stuff, he's going to do less content in general, he's going to focus on gaming, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. Now, I kind of said this to his face, just being transparent, so you don't have to hear it from some clip. If Steven quits, or if he stays, it's beneficial to me. And what I mean by that is, let's say he quits, he disappears. Well, now there's a giant vacuum in DGG where DGGers are going to be looking for new communities, and maybe there will be more politically, sexually, socially moderate people who would be interested in my stream. And so as a result, I might catch some of those people, right? Not all of them, because let's face it, there's a lot of liberals and progressives and gooners and all that bullshit. They're probably not going to be interested in my stream. But if DGG imploded and Destiny disappeared and he took his millions of dollars and he fucked off into the sunset, I would potentially benefit. I also benefit if he stays. And what I mean by that is if he gets his shit together, if he works on canvassing operations, if he works on the midterm, if he only has sex with girls that are over the age, in my opinion, they should be over the age of 21, but that's fine. And he checks their IDs, if he doesn't leak any more homemade porn, if he doesn't videotape things that are not that are all everything he videotapes, if he videotapes anything, which I would recommend against, but if he videotapes anything, it's all with consent, then boom, he cleaned up his act. He's still a force for good. We can hang out, we can shoot guns, we can make content together, whatever. And so for me, laying that all out there, people can say, oh, Connor, you're such a Machiavellian manipulative fuck because you have these things in consideration. But for me, these are the kinds of things that everybody who's a creator kind of contemplates. They just don't say it out loud because they don't want to be accused of being Machiavellian.
Yeah, and this is why I don't do the pressure thing, right? And I don't try to pressure Wick or you or Kyler or whoever not to interact with them, because you guys, I'm a very, like I said, I'm a very wealthy person. I built a very comfortable life for myself. I'm actually retiring at the end of the year. I'm selling my company, so that's going to be fun. But I totally understand the grind, right? I know what it's like. So I would never pressure anybody to do anything that isn't going to help them succeed. You guys have families, you have lives, you got bills to pay. So if you want to interact with a dude, and go for it. I like, for example, I just don't watch Wick stream when he's on, but I watch Wick stream on other times, right? And I donate to Wick stream all the time. So like, I have no issue with any of you. I just don't want to support this specific guy. That's it. It's not more intense than that for me.
Sure.
I have no skin in the game here beyond being a chatter, and in terms of, like, whether he's here or not, it doesn't impact me really, like, at all. I've got plenty of people to argue with. I got plenty of shit to entertain me when I've got time. So it's not that important to me. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, cool. Sorry, somebody, Kev99 says Connor's a hypocrite giving advice about Destiny dating 20-year-old people when he married an 18-year-old. Lol, it's worse. Number one, when I met my wife, she was 19. Number two, she was in a committed relationship. Number three, I did not break up that committed relationship. I was just her coworker for 6 months.
Fuck.
Number four, when she broke up with her boyfriend, we went on a date to Pita Pit, and I didn't even try to, manipulate her into anything crazy. We got to know each other. We were friends for months before we ever dated. Number five, she's pretty mature for her age. I know everybody says that. I was 24. I was 24. This pedo pit.
Yeah, I mean, my wife is 7 years younger than me. Okay, so I can't criticize you.
Yeah. But how old were you? I was 24. It's a 5-year age gap. I'm not a pedo. Jesus Christ. All right, they're fucking with me. So, anyways. So,
Now,
yeah, just save some rounds, and if you want to talk about the Red Sea crisis or Israel or the communist shit, I would be happy to do so. I do enjoy our conversations, but I think I need to.
Yeah, totally.
I need to run to the next
I'm around
thing.
tomorrow if you want, or we can do next week at sometime. Like tomorrow after like 10 o'clock works for me. So
my chat hates you, but I was normally at
really
150. I was at 150 live viewers. That was kind of my average today, and you bumped it up to 185, 190. So they hate you.
Yeah, I'm sure
they love to hate you.
I'm sure the comp signal went out in the DGG chat, so they're all here to be mad at me. But the thing is, I would really like to talk to them, like one-on-one. I would like to understand why they believe that this is
and that's really the challenge, guys. Right? The challenge is, and Dooby brought this up in the beginning of the conversation, and we did not get anything substantive. You can phrase the question however you want to phrase it, but my question would be, why does Dooby deserve either to be like doxxed or harassed for engaging in the behavior that he's engaging in, when it is largely, in my opinion, the same behavior that a chatter who dislikes Destiny would engage in? Criticism. Why is criticism like worthy of doxing or harassment? Is there a different question you want to ask the chat besides the one I just articulated?
No, that's it. Now, some of these guys think that I'm like a tanky or something, but I can understand that, right? So, like I said,
I think you said the word Posadist a few times, and I think that triggered.
Yeah, but hold on, but that's just because it's a really funny ideology if you look into it. They believe in like working with dolphins and aliens to like, institute world communism. It's really funny.
All right, cool. Well, let's talk about that.
We can
talk
some other time. Like I said, I'm around tomorrow if you want after 10 o'clock. Totally up to you.
All right, sounds good, bud. I'll reach out.
Talk to you later. Have a good day.
Bye. I parasocially love you guys. I hope you have a great day. Catch you tomorrow.